What's going on, Ramley? Welcome into the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB Network, live after round one of the NFL draft. We made it through all the draft preparation. First round is in the books. And per usual, the Les Snead special strikes, and the Rams do not pick. We had one pick last year in the first in the McVey era. We don't get one this year.
Yeah.
First and foremost, though, Skinny T, great work today. How you doing?
Doing great. I mean, the draft is such a long season that it's fine. It's fun when it's finally there, but the longest stretch is the day of, where you got to go from 8 o'clock or whatever until 5 o'clock PST. And I was thinking about it all day, just getting all psyched up about all the things that could happen.
Yeah. A lot of options. Obviously, we talked extensively about what the Rams could do throughout the process. Let us know your guys' thoughts. Drop the comments. We got the comment list over here. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Rams trade pick 26 to the Falcons. They go kind of far back in the second. I think the hope initially was if they trade back, they're still at the top end of the second. They get pick 46. So they're kind of in the middle of the pack. They get a 7th round pick. They also deal a 3rd round pick, but the big get is they get a 1st round pick next year.
Yeah, so that's 2 2026 first rounders. So that's the headline. We can't bury the lead on this one. There's lots to talk about in terms of what's going to happen at 46. What does this mean for certain positions and whatnot? But the lead is 2026. What does this allow them to do in that year? It means they can win in 2025 and still go get a quarterback high next season if they want to go that route.
So we'll talk 46, and obviously there's some corners that could be available and whatnot. You have the board here. But let's just talk quarterbacks for a minute, because you and I both, well, let me just ask this. Getting that first next year, do you think this now takes the Rams out of drafting a quarterback this year? Obviously they didn't do it the first, but still Shedeur Sanders is still on the board. Tyler Shuck, who we both like a lot, if they want to go in the 2nd or 3rd. Like, do you think now, though, they're like, hey, we got 2 first next year, let's just pony up next year and not worry about it this year?
I hope not, because a lot can change.
Yeah.
And we were looking at the consensus boards for next year's draft in terms of who's going to be high up there. And it's still a mystery. I mean, I think everybody knows the name Arch Manning, but he's going to be a first-year starter.
Yep.
A lot can go down. Injuries happen. Players don't live up to expectations. So I think, when trying to find a quarterback, the thing that I've always doubled down on, the thing that I keep going back to, is you gotta keep trying it until you find a guy.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but the 49ers, they wasted a bunch of draft picks trying to go get Trey Lance, traded up for him, and found Brock Purdy, and now they got Brock Purdy, and that ended up working out for them. And there's other examples of, teams drafting quarterbacks when they already have somebody in place, and that's worked out a lot of times. Tony Romo to Dak Prescott, Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, and so on. So I think they should try out one of these guys, especially some late round picks where they've got some upside. But the question is, how long are these quarterbacks going to last?
So that's the big question. Only one quarterback goes in the first round.
2.
Oh yeah, Jackson Dart ended up going the pick right before. So yeah, 2 quarterbacks: Jackson Dart, Cam Ward first. So when we talked about, and we kind of suspected perhaps that Shedeur Sanders could fall. Don't know if anyone really thought he'd fully fall out of the first round. But the fact that he is there, I think actually. So to answer my question I asked you, I think it's now more likely the Rams take a quarterback this year, because the way the board's fallen, they're able to get an extra pick. Well, I guess they kind of washed because they had to give up a 3rd.
Still 8 picks for this season.
Yeah, so they stay put. They get that 7th. But the way the board, I think, has fallen is if they do like a Milroe, if they do like a Tyler Shuck, if they do like any of those middle guys, the Ohio State kid or whatever, now it's like they're probably just going to be pushed further down. And so it's not like they're feeling like they have to reach, going in today. Did they take Dart at 26, or do they trade into the 2nd to get a guy because they didn't have a 2nd? And now it's like they can just kind of let it all fall into place, but get that QB that they can potentially develop. And then still, if you take a quarterback, let's just say they go Tyler Shuck in the third. You don't feel bad if next year you have those 2 firsts and the QB class is great. You're not going to be like, oh, we took a QB last year, we can't do that. Like you use a 3rd rounder, not your 10th overall pick. So they can still next year then utilize those 2 to go get a guy if they want to.
Yeah, 100%. And there was a really interesting, I don't know if it was a mistake. I don't know if there was smoke where there was some fire or if it was just some smoke, but Field Yates, before the trade from the Giants up to 25, he was saying that there's maybe some Rams interests the Giants trading up with them.
Yeah.
And if there's any truth to that, if it wasn't just an outright mistake, Field Yates deleted all those tweets now. But if
Field,
that kind of points toward maybe there was some truth to the Rams being into Dart at 26. They traded right ahead of them.
Yeah.
To go get Dart.
Yeah.
And so that's just so intriguing. And not only that, but there was also trade rumors that the Rams were trying to trade up for Teteroa McMillan, wide receiver.
Yeah.
So this is, as little as actually happened for the Rams in the first round, really interesting. Whispers and rumors. Well, and that trade up is not a rumor. That was confirmed by Sean McVay later on, posted on X by the Stu Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even see that actually confirmed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he confirmed if it was for Ted McMillan or just that they were trying to trade up. But
the Rams, we know their poker face is not good. Last year it was no secret they were trying to trade up for Brock Bowers. They didn't say Bowers' name, so I'm pretty confident that yes, they were probably trying to trade up for McMillan.
Yeah.
Which I think would have been really interesting. But yeah, to your point, like yes, nothing officially happened in terms of selecting a player, but a lot of narratives and storylines and we know in the first round specifically, the whole draft really, it's all kind of these smoke screens and how you can kind of mislead. I remember last year, this isn't necessarily with the Rams, but Sean Payton of the Broncos saying he was kind of tipping off that they were interested in JJ McCarthy, which then forced the Vikings to move up 1 pick.
Right.
When in reality, the Broncos the whole time wanted Bo Nix. At least that's what they said. So if there's some truth to the Rams kind of putting out feelers like, hey, we actually like Dart, it kind of forced the hand of the Giants to move in front of them, which then allowed the Rams to then, in reality, they got more value from the Falcons than what the Giants gave who did they trade up with?
The Texans,
because the Rams got that extra first round pick. And the Falcons, we love Raw. We love Coach Raw.
We're all rooting for Raw, but come on.
What they gave up to take who they took.
It was James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, edge rusher. It was their second edge rusher. They need those positions, but an extra first rounder for that.
Yeah,
they probably could have found a comparable guy in the second at 46 if they wanted to stick and pick there. But come on, Ryan, you got to do us some favors if we're going to be rooting for you.
So Ran Matendo 77 says this was a smart move, preparing for Stafford's retirement and also putting themselves in position to trade up to get the top QB in next year's draft. So yeah, essentially from what I'm taking from that is thanks for the comment saying that they didn't force themselves to address it this year. They still can, but they're allowing themselves to have that momentum next year if needed.
Yeah, 100%. And, coming into this draft, I was saying that, this is a Super Bowl winning team with Stafford at the helm.
Yeah.
And the rest of the roster around him. And what they're going to add, with Puna Ford and all that. So like I said, kind of at the top, it's like they can still win. They can have their cake and eat it too with next year's quarterback class. So, they've set themselves up great, but also the rest of the league really set the Rams up really nicely for day 2.
Yeah. They really the only, which was very unlikely that either guy made it to them, but the only thing that did not work in the Rams' favor was both tight ends going before pick 14 when the Colts took Warren, who actually went second, and then Colson Loveland going to the Bears. I know we talked last episode, like my hope was the Rams would trade up to get Loveland or Warren. I figured Warren would actually go too high, and it ended up being the reverse.
Yeah.
But outside of those two, the board really fell nicely. Only what 2 corners ended up going total, depending on how you specify Hunter.
Hunter and then
Jahdae
Jahdae Barron,
Barron,
and then
the Kentucky kid.
Harrison came off the board. And that was right at the end. And so I'm curious if that actually will start a cornerback run.
Yeah.
Because there are several really intriguing names that you guys are probably still familiar with. Will Johnson, first round, he was kind of top number 2 guy.
Yeah.
After Travis Hunter. Everything that I heard on the NFL broadcast is that it's health related.
Yeah, it's all medicals, it seems, which now not in the first round, like you have no problem, I think, not no problem, but you can take that risk. And we know the Rams love drafting guys with injury history with a high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
So Johnson, I think, is a guy to look. But here, real quick, before we get to like looking at who they could get
Sure.
with their second round pick, I want to talk a little bit more about the Ted McMillan trade potential.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on that? Because I know I was very outspoken. I did not think the Rams should take a receiver in the first round. I thought it was a wasted pick just based on how Stafford keys in on the offense and whatnot. However, McMillan was my top receiver. I just didn't think he would ever be in play for the Rams. So the fact that they saw that, the versatility and the difference he would bring would have been interesting. But what's your thoughts on if that would have been reality?
He's not a separator. He's a jump ball guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is a limited sample size here, but they tried to bring in a jump ball guy a couple years ago in Allen Robinson, and it just didn't work out.
Yep.
My theory is that Stafford likes to see an open receiver and hit the open receivers. You think about Puka and what Cooper Kupp were really great at. It's a separation.
Yep.
Is really what separates them from other receivers. So I'm surprised by it. And I'm surprised that it wasn't one of the tight ends, just based on Tyler Higbee's lack of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, reading up the other day, more than 30% of Les Snead's day 2 picks goes to wide receivers.
There you go.
So
my only, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily pushback, because I agree with you, but my only, I guess, counter to that is, well, I agree in terms of 90% of Stafford's schematics and production, everything you said. We saw Demarcus Robinson be a kind of TD vulture in the red zone with his jump ball ability. He wasn't really utilized on the rest of the field. But when it came to the red zone, I mean, he had 6 straight games with a touchdown at one point. Maybe that was 2 years ago. So now that he is gone, they are missing that. And so you get a guy like Tet on a rookie contract. You get that 5th-year option. So he's very cost controlled. And then obviously I think he has a higher skill set than Demarcus Robinson. So you kind of get what you lost in Robinson, plus a guy that can be a true X outside threat, while you have Puka in the inside, but can also play outside. And then obviously Devontae Adams, who they only have on a 2-year deal. So you're kind of planning for the future too. So the more I've thought about it, I do actually would have liked it. I kind of would have liked it. And it also, last thing, Skinny, I'll say is, I'm not saying at all he is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers obviously is a tight end, but Brock Bowers would have given them an element to the offense that they didn't or don't still have.
Yeah.
I think the similar thing with McMillan is what they don't currently have. He would have given that to the offense.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And last year was ravaged by 3-and-outs.
Yeah.
3rd down inefficiency, red zone inefficiency. So I think he definitely fits the bill there. And when Higbee came back, I mean, you saw the impact of that difference. Kind of
guy.
Yeah. Which obviously tight ends and wide receivers are completely different positions. But, you need that red zone guy.
Yeah.
And, Puka's double covered and Cooper Kupp wasn't quite himself for for much of the season. So, and what I think we have to remember is this Rams offense is evolving. It's not, it's going to be a different place in 2025 than it was even just a few months ago.
100%. Let's get our guy, Jason. What's up, Jason?
What's up, Hoser?
My guy. Only competition for a top QB will be Cleveland unless they take Sanders, with them having 2 firsts as well with the Jax trade. So obviously that's referring to next year.
Oh, okay.
But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say for a 2nd-round quarterback, Cleveland takes 33.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be the Shadur Sanders team.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they should, if we're being honest, like, who do they end up signing? Because obviously Watson is hurt now. They signed someone, didn't they?
I'm sure they did. I'll pull it up.
I can't even remember. But it would make sense to get Sanders, and why not give him a shot? But yes, like what Jason's saying, I think I'm assuming anyway, he's referring to next year. The only real QB needy team most likely will be Cleveland, which I'm trying to think through. I think he's kind of right. I'm trying to think through. Obviously, we'll see how Dart works out in New York, but they're not going to go back-to-back years taking a first rounder.
Yeah, and you got to think Jets, about Seattle as well.
Seattle with Darnold. How does he? If Darnold is the guy, then yeah, that's true.
I mean, Raiders are going to be looking for a quarterback of the future.
Yeah, of the future.
34-year-old Geno Smith there.
The Jets still. I mean, if Justin Fields ends up being the guy, then they're set. But
Steelers didn't take a quarterback.
Steelers haven't taken a QB yet.
Yeah. So Browns are rolling with Flacco and Kenny Pickett at the moment, just to clear up that.
Oh, like even if you don't believe Sanders is like a franchise QB, I think I would take him over those two guys. Like just Certainly. For this season, just like Certainly. As a rookie QB for this year, I think I would take Tyler Shuck or Will Campbell, I think, over those two guys.
The offensive lineman Will Campbell? No. Will Howard.
Will Howard, thank you. Yeah. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day, for sure.
Will Campbell, speaking of, love seeing grown men show tears. Mr. Emotional Will Campbell, that was great.
Oh, man, I was so inspired by his speech. I don't even remember where he went, but I was like just pumped up for that team.
Yeah. Oh, he went to New England.
New England, yeah. He was like, I'm going to die for that team. I'm going to die for my quarterback.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Offensive linemen are the best. So, all right. Let's talk a little. So, pick 46. So, the Rams will have to wait 13 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Not a mathematician, but I think that's right. 13 picks till they are on the clock tomorrow. How do you see it playing out? Position, player. I mean, we know the Rams don't have like a true need. So, BPA, best player available. I think there's a lot of, I mean, you mentioned corners.
Linebacker's still there.
We could see maybe a tight end, like how they value like Arroyo or Fannin from Bowling Green, or where
Mason Taylor still on the board.
What do you see? Running back.
Let's start
Judkins
there.
Or Henderson.
Let's just start there. I think Henderson's going to go pretty early. I don't think they're going to have a chance at them. Caleb Johnson he's more of a zone guy, not really a fit for the gap scheme that they run. My guy, Quinshon Judkins, still there, plenty of explosivity.
Yep.
So I think that's a guy to watch. And then your guy, Cam Scatterbo.
I'm a big Scatterbo guy.
I mean, it doesn't do anything to address their problems.
No,
he's not running back position.
He's not a speed game breaking guy. He's just a smash mouth old school running back.
Yeah. I don't think they go running back that early. We were kind of reviewing some of the Rams draft history, and I mean, Cam Akers was the second round pick.
Yeah.
Their first overall pick. I think they were in the 50s at that point.
Yeah, they took Cam, and then 3 later took Van Jefferson, I think, that year.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see that being the tack there, but I'm outside of the players of need. I'm looking at wide receiver. So who's left on the board right now? Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, Trey Harris, Ole Miss, Luther Burden out of Missouri. All good guys. I think they're probably gone before 46. But Jalen Knoll and our guy Jack Besh. I think they're going to come right in that area. I mean, I know you don't want it, but with the idea of Tet kind of getting thrown out there, if they like one of these guys, I mean, their guy that their coach that came from Iowa State, worked with him in the past. I can't remember that guy's name, but Nate Shieldhouse.
Oh yeah.
He just got a promotion with, kind of some openings there. So, I know it's not a position of need, but how can you hold back? Can you hold back a good man?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, like I said, my big thing was a first rounder. I wouldn't hate it. I think that there's a lot of depth at receiver, in my opinion, that, there's certainly a drop off after Higgins and Luther Bird, and there's going to be a talent drop off, but I don't think it's like drastic. Like if Besh kind of falls, I like him. I really like Torrey Horton out of Colorado State.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy that, kind of like how the Rams draft, high upside, injury history. So, I mean, if he didn't have the injury history that he had at Colorado State, he probably would be much higher within the hierarchy of wide receivers. But because of those injuries, he's kind of buried in that kind of 3rd to 4th round range. So if they can kind of wait and get him in the 3rd, I'd love a Torrey Horton. But yeah, I wouldn't hate. I just think for me in the 2nd, linebacker, corner, tight end, or even one of those running backs you mentioned, I think those are the 4 ones that I would want.
We got to throw up Jason's comment here for our guy Carson Schweschinger. He's at the top of the list. Does he make it to 46?
That's the question. Yeah, that to me would be a home run pick.
That would absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a Rams type player. He's a try hard in the best kind of ways. You know, they love these guys that just have this
lunch pail mentality.
But like, I think Schweschinger goes even further, where it's just like he's had to fight for every snap.
Yeah, he's a walk on. Yeah, he wasn't like even like a 3-star recruit. Like walk on. And didn't really break out till last season, and where he just exploded. I mean, he was like, you could argue the best linebacker in the Big Ten.
Well, it's hard to argue that because he had 1 million tackles.
Yeah.
And 500,000 more than the next guy. So
let me ask you this, and thank you. Name is this person's name.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Love the trade. I wanted Campbell, but hopefully we can address the linebacker situation sooner than later. So
Campbell going to the Eagles scares me.
Yeah, at 31, it's insane that they just keep getting better. So that's what I was gonna ask you. So the fact the Rams thought it was more valuable to trade back instead of taking Campbell, who was available there, does that tell you, and I have my opinion, but does that tell you that they see other linebackers that are just as valuable, less drop off, or does it tell you that they're just not probably going to draft a linebacker?
I imagine they're going to pick up a linebacker. It might be another undrafted free agent. Yeah. I mean, they don't value the position. That hasn't changed.
It's just hilarious considering their defensive coordinator, Chris Shula, was the linebacker coach.
Ernest Jones, there's obviously a lot of story in between this, is getting paid $9 million per year. $9.5 million per year.
Yeah.
That is like LB 15 rank.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that, like, they could have paid him. They could have, like, I don't know what his asking number is. Maybe it was higher than that. I don't know what happened in between there, but like, I just keep going back to that. They re-signed Troy Reader. They're starting an undrafted
fan favorite Troy Reader.
fan favorite Troy Reader. They're starting an undrafted free agent. Spates did a fantastic job, in that role, but he's not, the distance between he and Ernest Jones is broad. I mean, Jones was serviceable in coverage.
Yeah.
Good run defender, could rush the passer, and, sideline to sideline. I mean, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to take one at some point. They have to take one at some point.
So
it would be criminal.
Starting tomorrow, like looking at the roster and best players available, like I am so hopeful that somehow Schweschinger falls to 46. But then there's the other part of me that I just don't think it matters because I just don't think they'll draft him. I just don't think they'll draft a linebacker.
I mean, that would be the most telling non-pick in Rams history.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
If he's yes, like you're saying, if he falls there and the Rams pass and go running back or receiver, then that tells you they are very happy with their linebacker room. They'll probably still add one way late just for like depth and special teams.
Yeah.
That says everything you need to know, that they're happy with the landman and happy with Spates.
Yep. And Troy Reader.
And
they seem to be happy with him.
They seem to love it. Troy must have dirt on someone. This guy's like Jesus.
Yeah, I automatically went towards like they like something about him, but maybe you're right.
So I mean, it's like that club of players, and obviously they're gone now. But when you look at Troy Reader and their former backup quarterback.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to read the comments.
Who was their former backup quarterback? The
Wolford,
John Wolford. Like it was this collection of players. They're just like, how are you still like on the roster? There's just some like love infatuation. Troy Reader's one of those guys. He's a good guy. He does some decent stuff in his role, but when you're asking him to be a starting situational linebacker, it's not great. It's why Saquon Barkley ran for 200 plus yards both times they played. Not Troy Reader specifically, but because the lack of linebacker talent.
Well, Christian Roseman is probably gone from the team because
Yeah.
of those two games.
Yeah. You want me to look at some of these comments?
Yeah. I was listening to the Athletic football show earlier today, and their co-host, Derek Harmon, I think his name. No, that's not his name. I can't remember his name.
Derek Harmon was drafted out of Oregon today.
Yep. No, that's not him. Here we go. But he was talking about his desire for Jalen Milroe to end up on the team because he recognizes Sean McVay's desire for a mobile quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And they pointed towards, oh, you mean like John Wolford? And they had Bryce Perkins as well. But
Yeah.
I stand by it. I think that the Sean McVay's ideal quarterback is Josh Allen.
It's funny you say that, and I don't want to. I'm not like disagreeing with you, and obviously, the podcast you're referring to are super knowledgeable guys, but I've heard that a lot. I've said it too, but it's one of those kind of strange fallacies. Like, is it truth? Because he's never actually had ever a mobile. Like, yes, you can talk about the backups, but I'm not counting him as like he's never had. I mean, you had Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford, two very pocket present statue quarterbacks in a way. And so making this assumption like, oh, the true quarterback for the system is like a mobile guy. I'm curious if he really does want that because he's never actually had it. Maybe he does because he just thinks it can unlock another step. Why wouldn't you want a Josh Allen, obviously?
Yeah.
But I'd be curious if it's like, does he want that in a Milroe, or would he like a Tyler Shuck that's a little bit more of a pocket guy, has athleticism, but just has a bigger arm pocket guy?
Well, Milroe's got the arm. He just doesn't have the accuracy.
This is true.
Which is what Allen was when he came in.
Very true.
And I, like sometimes what the things that we want don't necessarily reflect what we actually want in our life.
Yeah.
Like maybe I want to date a biker chick. It's like, hey, when you're dating a biker chick, the world's a little different. And you find out, no, I'm good with Steady Eddie in the pocket there.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true.
That came off the rails real quick.
I still think, like, I know we're getting like deep into quarterback. I still think Will Howard is like the perfect prospect for Sean McVay.
You're gonna have to talk me into that one.
I know you're not big on it. I don't know, something that, because he has that athleticism that McVay's never had, but he has much more accuracy, and his decision making was a lot better. And he's the pedigree. I mean, he won a natty last year.
So did Georgia. Stetson Bennett.
Okay, well, Stetson Bennett didn't have any of that. He was just like had the anyway. I get what you're saying.
Well, and Will Howard is athletic in the way that Josh Allen is, in so much as he's just bigger than everybody.
Yeah,
and he's going to run people over.
Yeah,
but he's not the fastest guy out there, but he's
pull up real quick Will Howard stats because I can't remember. I know at Kansas State he had I think 1 year he had like 500 yards rushing almost. And I don't remember how much he had last year at Ohio State. We'll check right now and see. Let us know, guys, what do you think about if the Rams still take a quarterback on day 2 or 3? Who is your preference? I feel like most of the Ramley likes Milroe, but okay, so we got 351 yards in his last year and then 256 last year. So I mean, that's not anything crazy, but
a lot of carries. 81 carries in 2023, 78 carries in 2020, 105 last year. So at 2.15 yards per, but
not a great average.
Seven touchdowns. I mean, they're using him in the goal line.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good tape of him just plowing people at the goal line.
Yeah. I mean, he's what, 6'5", like 220.
And maybe that would talk Sean McVay into liking the tush push if he's got a guy that can just push the pile around.
Is that talking you into liking Will Howard? You're not there yet. And I'm not saying I don't like Milroe. I'm not saying that at all. I think Milroe, if they want him, they'll have to take him at 46. I think Howard, they can get in the 3rd or 4th.
Yeah. I mean, if he comes in at the 4th or later,
okay.
I'm good with that. At the right price, I'll buy anything, really.
Big buyer.
Yeah.
Shopaholic.
It's on sale. I'll go broke saving all this money.
All right, we'll wrap up here soon. What tight ends do you like at 46?
I think Arroyo's going to be gone. Fannon's a weird one.
Yeah, Fannon's kind of that like tweener, round tweener. I mean,
And he's not like a freak athlete, but he's like a yak guy. He's like once he's got the ball in his hands, he's good. Mason Taylor's a guy that I'm interested in, but I mean, Maliki Matavau out of you. I know we're UCLA guys, but you know, a lot of good tape on him. Mitchell Evans, Notre Dame's producing a lot of good tight ends.
Yeah, that's fair.
Featured heavily. And those guys might fall into the later rounds too. So, in the second, if Mason Taylor's around, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. Mason Taylor, Arroyo too, just for that athletic upside. We know for a fact McVay is desperately wanting an athletic tight end. He took with his first pick as a head coach with Gerald Everett, and then has tried to replicate that in mid rounds ever since, and just has not been able to find a guy that sticks. Higbee's been the closest to it, but unfortunately some injuries have derailed that. So if you can get a guy like Arroyo, who maybe doesn't have the college production, but certainly has the upside and athleticism, I mean, that I think that's a good pick too. So, yeah, I'm just so, it's going to depend obviously how the board falls. 13 picks ahead. But I think, I know I'm listing like half the positions, but I think it'll be corner, tight end, running back, or receiver. I don't think it'll be a receiver, but you made a good point there and a good argument. So, but me, I think it's running back, tight end, or corner, or linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, McVay has this thing for wide receivers. Tutu Atwell can't quit Tutu.
He's in that circle. Him, Troy Reader.
Yeah, he's like the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, something.
I think cornerback is going to be the most interesting in how it plays out. I know Isaiah Thomas got a lot of love kind of in this range as well. I think Trey Amos and Will Johnson are going to come off the board. Javon Ravel fell precipitously as well.
You like Ravel?
I do. I mean, I think from a size perspective, 6'2". The thing about him is I have not heard anything about why he's slipped.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was combine related, but maybe it was,
What was the stat again that in the McVay era, the Rams have only taken one corner in the top 3 rounds? Or maybe it's even none?
I mean, that sounds right. I mean,
David Long Jr. was a 3rd rounder, right?
Yeah.
So I think, he was, because Robert Rochelle was a 4th. Yeah, I think you told me, and then I saw it later, but it's like one corner in the top 3 rounds.
And I said it last episode, the Jalen Ramsey is really the last time they've invested in a cornerback in it with any substantial money or draft picks.
Yeah.
Obviously, they pumped a bunch into it in 2022, and it'll be really interesting to see if they bring any of those guys back.
Yeah.
I think Quentin Lake is probably the best option for another contract, but I don't even know if he's going to make it.
Yeah.
They
just don't re-sign anyone hardly.
Yeah. So I think all those guys are probably expendable unless, Darian Kendrick wants to come back on a super low contract, because not a lot of people are going to be eager to sign him.
Or Kobe Durant, if he can keep developing.
I mean, I love Kobe Durant. He's been such a, trooper, kind of moving all over the place and exceeding expectations. But, he hasn't moved into that CB1 position. So,
yeah, very true. So, all right. Well, anything else to add before we wrap up? We'll be back live again tomorrow. The Rams should make picks tomorrow, so we should have some picks to talk about.
It's all going to be in the 6th round. They're going to end up with the entire 6th round.
Just 32 6th-round picks. Yeah. I mean, I think overall, good trade, right? Are you happy with the trade?
100%. And it's all because of what it sets them up for in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, getting a 1st rounder, that's pretty insane.
I mean, this has been my gripe for 6 months at least, is what is the plan for the life after Stafford? And this gives some clarity around it. Now, some people are out there saying they're going to flip these picks for Trey Hendrickson. I mean, that's mortgaging your future. That might get you a Super Bowl.
Which I think anyone would trade that for.
I think so.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is, there's different analytics out there that kind of put value on certain draft picks. So like typically trading for a future 1st round pick is valued at like a current late second round pick, something like that. But because of how potentially loaded the QB class is next year, not just the QB class, I mean, there's a lot of positions I think that are pretty valuable. I think that this first rounder could actually be quantified as a early second round pick this year. So it has a little higher value to it.
Yeah.
Now the Falcons on their end are obviously picturing them to have a playoff caliber season. So they're basically saying we're giving you a late first rounder in order to get what we want. Rams fans now got to be hoping the Falcons stink next year and that becomes like a top 15 pick.
Yeah, 100%. They could be really bad. We got a little picture of Michael Penix.
Yeah, the Falcons are a wild card. I mean, they have a lot a lot.
They got Bijan. They got Drake London. They have
Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts for now. We'll see what happens with that.
They just drafted their hopefully edge player.
Two edgers.
Yeah, two edges. Yeah, I mean they're kind of a mystery team that we just don't know because Michael Penix played. What did he end up playing? 3-4 games total.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And
nothing spectacular either.
Yeah. Didn't look bad, but didn't I don't think wowed anything.
I like Raheem Morris so much. I just want him to do well.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to root against him now.
Yeah. Bottom of the NFC South.
And it's like, did they fleece him? Did they talk talk him into this?
It feels like it. However,
big brother talking down to little bro.
To the Falcons' defense their division's so bad that the Saints are going to be bad again because who knows what's going on with Derek Carr? Like they have no quarterback.
Tampa Bay is a good team.
Tampa Bay's going to win the division.
Yeah.
Carolina, I like what Carolina's doing. I love the head coach. I think that what he was able to do to kind of bring Bryce Young kind of back from the dead and now looking like he's going to be the franchise guy because of how he instilled trust in him.
He did a Jared Goff on that guy.
He did 100%.
Yeah.
But they're full rebuild. I mean, they're not going to be good next year yet. They're just in rebuilding. So
yeah.
Just by that, the Falcons could be that's 4 games that they should win in the division.
Yeah.
So by that, they're going to be out of a top 15 pick, but we'll see. You got to play the games.
100%.
Let's see if there's any last questions in here. Rob Marchian. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I just don't understand the Arch Manning hype. I'll have to see how he does next year first.
100%. You can't people that are all in on anybody right now for 2026. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. I mean, here's your perfect example. Last year at this time, Cam Ward had just transferred from Washington State to Miami. Had he gone to the draft, I know I said this on a show before, which he was thinking about going to the draft. He hit the portal, and the initial thought was he's in the portal because he's going to see what kind of NIL deal he can get. If it's not a lot, he's going to go to the draft. He was projected to be a 5th or 6th round pick.
Yeah.
He went first overall today. Jaden Daniels the year before leaves Arizona State, was going to be a 5th or 6th, maybe 7th, maybe undrafted, goes to LSU, wins the Heisman, 2nd overall pick. There's been the vice versa, right? Quinn Ewers this year. A year ago, 1 year ago, Quinn Ewers was far and away the projected 1st overall quarterback for this year's draft. Now we'll see what he goes, but it's probably not going to be until 4th or 6th. So it's really hard to put a projection on a guy that is now going to be the first time ever starter. Yes, he's played some football games, but he was always the backup. It's hard to just project him as the next whoever when we haven't seen it. So yes, I agree 100% that I wouldn't be shocked if someone I know I'm a big USC homer because I cover the team. I wouldn't be shocked if someone like a Jaden Maeva rockets up boards because no one's talking about him, but he could be this year's Cam Ward of just kind of like a guy that in the right system with Lincoln Riley just shoots up the boards.
Well, and the kind of a hot buzzy name right now is Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah. Well done.
Nicely. We're getting really good at these Polynesian names.
We're getting a lot of poly practice. Yeah.
Poly, yeah. And there's a lot of interesting, guy, Tedero McMillan.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was number 2 on some of these boards for next year. He's playing at UCLA now. Was at Tennessee. Madden, his brother, playing at UCLA now as well. It's with NIL, this is a weird world.
Yeah, it's bizarre,
and it screws up the process even more for projecting the next great quarterback because it's like,
Yeah.
they're all over the place.
And they're all in different systems and schools. And
it's not like UCLA's offense is going to be the most dynamic and interesting and most watched.
yeah.
And so like he's probably going to fly under the radar regardless of how well or poorly he does.
Yeah. It'll be for him. Not we're getting out of the weeds here. We'll wrap up. But for him, which is when I was reading up on it more, obviously there's a lot of talk, as there should be, about the NIL and the holdout in this, but there was a certain aspect of him transferring because Josh Heupel, the coach of Tennessee, the system he runs does not like prepare you for the NFL from a quarterback level. And so was UCLA the best choice to improve on that? We'll see. Obviously, Tino Sinceri, their new OC, was with Indiana last year, and Indiana runs a really good offense, I think, under their coach. So we'll see what that looks like. But I think that was part of that went into that. So to your point, like, will he get this development in 1 year to where he really is like a true top 10 potential pick? We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, a lot of options. But to everyone's point, to our point, as of now, McVeys said in his presser, like, for now, as of now, the Rams have at least positioned themselves to have the draft capital necessary to basically go and get whoever they want, should they want to.
And that opens the door to a whole other conversation, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, if they see this as a Super Bowl window, they're going to treat it much differently than what we want them to do. Because, a Super Bowl is going to buy them a lot of goodwill. And, who doesn't want, to double their rings, honestly? Like, I mean, they were accused of chasing a Super Bowl last time around, but they also got a ring. So, like, why wouldn't they do that again? So are they going to flip one of those picks for a Trey Hendrickson, for a George Pickens is out there? I mean, he doesn't deserve a first, but like, there's after the draft, and we should definitely do a show about this. After the draft, the comp pick formula gets pulled off of free agents.
Yeah.
So who are they going to sign? A bunch of people are going to be put up into the trade market. What does that mean for the Rams? Are they going to chase somebody in the trade market now with this extra first round pick? And who could that be? That could be anybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great point, Skinny, because my thought immediately when they got the pick was like, great, they're positioned next year. And we've been talking about it a bunch this whole show. But the way the Rams operate, you're 1,000% right. Like, why would they not flip that first now for someone that helps them right now get dominant at some position that they maybe didn't take in the draft because they didn't want to take the time to develop, and then go get a Trey Hendrickson. They could get, go back and get Jalen Ramsey again. I know there's links to that, which would not take a first anymore. But the optionality of now having this first to go get some top tier player, now I'm thinking that's actually probably more likely than them waiting till the draft next year with 2 firsts.
Well, this is a conversation for the trade deadline, because that's probably when they'll have a better assessment of what 2025 team looks like.
Yeah.
And if they're 8-1, or whatever, the weeks work out for the trade deadline, if they're chugging along, they're going to add to the team.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're going to show up those weaknesses.
And then the hope is they can trade their pick and keep the Falcons, because I think the Falcons will finish worse.
That would be my bet. Yeah.
Yeah. But if needed at the deadline, let's say the Falcons are 4-8, all of a sudden that first becomes very valuable. And they're like, we can go get whoever we want from one of these bottom teams.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm thinking you're on to something. That actually sounds much more likely now.
They leave all the options open, like we were talking about, the trade up, the trade back, those were all on the table. Jackson Dart was on the table at 26, so that's the great thing about this team is they don't zero in on just one option. They keep their options open, and then they're quick to decide. They go, boom, I want that guy.
Yeah.
Or I want to trade.
We'll just get these quick and wrap up. Trent Lundgren, great name. If no one can tell, the Rams are stacking draft capital for next year to trade for Archer Manning. If anyone paid attention at Texas Pro Day, which is shocking the Rams even went to a Pro Day, right. The Rams spent a lot of time with Arch and none with Ewers. Yeah, I think there's some validity to that.
Yeah, certainly.
I think there's definitely, they're doing their research and preparing. And again, if they don't make a in-season trade for that and they have the capital, I think based on now, Arch Manning is seen as a top prospect. But we got, as we just said, I don't know when you join, but we got to see how the year plays out because this thing shifts so much.
Yeah, and just like I was saying, like they're not going to lock themselves. They're not saying Arch Manning or bust today.
No,
and they shouldn't. They're not all in on him. They should do their due diligence on him. Obviously, he's a great quarterback at this point, but we really haven't seen him tested at all.
Yeah. Swing timer. Who do you guys have the Rams taking in the second? We talked a bunch about this. I apologize.
Well, let's make a declarative.
We can just declare something though. Yeah. Let's go ahead.
Okay. I'll say I'll put my top three. Carson Schwarzenegger.
Top three. Okay.
Well, and then I'll do like
okay.
I'll actually man up and make the call.
Okay.
Quinshon Judkins I'll throw in there. And the tight ends are so tough. But Mason Taylor. If any of those three guys, I'm happy with it. Any of them.
Yeah, any of those would be great.
And I'm going to say that the guy that's going to be available at 46 is going to be Carson Schwarzenegger.
Swesh. I mean, I would love that. That'd be great. I'll go just to be different because I agree with all three of those. Man, I
didn't talk corner at all.
Well, that's where I'm going to go. So I'll be different.
Sorry.
I don't know if he falls 13 more picks, the Rams need to be running this pick in. So I'll go Will Johnson, corner at Michigan. If somehow the medicals are too concerning for some teams and he keeps sliding, this is a guy coming into last year. Again, we're talking about how much can change, how quickly.
Yeah.
If he would have gone in the draft last year after Michigan won the Natty, he would have been a top 10 pick. And now because of some injury history, like he potentially is going to be available maybe at 46. Like, so I'm going to say Will Johnson.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a run on cornerbacks. So I don't think that's going to be there, but not to rain on your parade.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he makes it 13 more picks, but I'll be thrilled if he does. So, all right. Anything of that? I think we can wrap up.
Now let's get out of here.
Yeah, been a long day. But back tomorrow. Cannot wait. So Ramley, make sure we'll be live again tomorrow. The draft starts a little earlier, but it'll probably finish around the same time because you got to go 2 full rounds. If you haven't, head to lafbnetwork.com. We put
the tracker
up. We put 20 articles up today covering all different draft scenarios, a lot with the Rams. So lafbnetwork.com. If you haven't, please like and subscribe to the channel, Rams LAFB. Certainly helps us out. And if you ever prefer to listen to audio, Apple, Spotify, just search Rams Skinny. You can find us there. So that's Skinny T. I'm Ryan Dyrud. Everyone enjoy the rest of this draft week. And we'll be back tomorrow night around the same time, live, Rams LAFB.